Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for making time for what I know will be an impactful 45 minutes. On behalf of Salem Media Group and Salem Surround, I'd like to welcome you to our Crisis Marketing webinar. My name is Jamie Cohen. I'm the Vice President of Digital for the Broadcast Division at Salem, and will be your host today. It's no secret that we're going through difficult times. Stay-at-home regulations and social distancing have caused many businesses to question whether marketing during this time is the right thing to do, and if so, what the right messaging is to use. We know it's difficult times, and we know that you're asking lots of questions and likely getting few answers, if any. That's why we're here to help answer those questions and provide some expert analysis and real data around the analysis. I'm pleased to introduce you to Mr. Gordon Burrell, the CEO at Burrell Associates. Burrell Associates is ranked in the top 2% of Gerson Lehrman's group of top worldwide consultants. Gordon and his team are frequently quoted in publications like Radio Inc., Wall Street Journal, Ad Age, Forbes. I'll be back to close the webinar, but at this point, I'm really happy to turn things over to our expert today and his team, Mr. Gordon Burrell. Hello, Gordon.
Hello, thank you, Jamie, and thank you, everybody, for attending. Happy Friday afternoon. What a strange time we are in. What we're going to do over the next 44 minutes, and we will end right on time, is just give you kind of a picture of what we see is happening and what the opportunity is in marketing. We're a research company. We move a bit fast. There's lots of data here, lots of research. We are going to give you time throughout the presentation to interact, particularly toward the end. We'll take your questions if you have ideas. Or if you want us to give you ideas, if you say, look, this is great, this is kind of interesting, but this type of business, I feel like I'm dead in the water. What do you got? We got ideas. I don't think we came close in the last webinar we did, but didn't get stumped yet. So see if you can stump us on ideas for your business. We'll do our best. So what you will be seeing today is I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview. I'm going to take you back in history. We have been here before. It feels unique, doesn't it? Well, it's not. We have been through crises before many times, and looking at the patterns of marketing and advertising and what businesses have done to not only survive but thrive during this period is really interesting. I'm going to show you some of that. Corey Elliott's our head of research. He's going to take a look at the local level, what local businesses just like you have been thinking and doing. That will be a fascinating look, because I think you're going to find that there's a certain segment of businesses, they're very active right now. They might not be who you think. And then Jim Brown, our ideas guy, is going to take it down to the local level and show you some things that you probably ought to be considering in your messaging, and then give you some ideas on businesses you probably are thinking, well, they're not going to be advertising or marketing right now. And they're really cool. Some interesting things that we've begun to see. And again, we'll take your questions. There's a question box up there. Just type your questions in. And we'll get to them. So let's go back 100 years. I told you we've been here before. The Great Depression, when it hit, nobody knew what would happen to consumer demand. This article is from the New Yorker 10 years ago, describing a very well-known and documented case during the Great Depression, when most advertisers pulled back and did what Post cereal did. Post was the big cereal brand at the time with Post Toasties. And they cut back on their advertising and all of their expenses. Meanwhile, Kellogg doubled its ad budget and moved into radio, which was a new medium at the time. Radio was first created as a public broadcasting group in 1920. So it was just getting big right around the time the Great Depression hit. They took advantage of that medium, and they saw their profits rise, and they got into a market leadership position. Meanwhile, Post kind of faded, although they're still out there with Fruity Pebbles, personally my favorite cereal. So yeah, that's a great example from 100 years ago. How about more recently? Well, General Motors took a page from Kellogg's book during 9/11, was when everybody was fixated on television and watching planes crash into the Pentagon and the World Trade Center and all that horrible stuff that was occurring in Pennsylvania. And GM said, this is probably a time to get moving. So they created the campaign and launched it in late September, called Keep America Rolling Again. They took a bit of a hit because people were saying, oh, they're being opportunistic and they shouldn't be using that phrase. And they moved forward. They offered 0% interest on loans, and they sold 1 million units by the end of the year. Every car manufacturer is doing the same thing right now because they've studied this case. This has also been a well-documented case. So the problem that most advertisers have at this moment is they're riding along on consumer confidence. So, we all feel kind of bad. We all feel kind of worried. We don't know what's going to happen next. Have we rounded the curve? Are we still on the uptick with this stuff? And what do we do? And you watch the news, you get worried, you get worried. But look at that blue line. And that's the line you should be paying attention to as a business. Consumer spending during a crisis continues to climb. In fact, it goes up 1.8% on average during this time. So you might think, okay, yeah, well, I'm buying a lot more things, but it's not what I have to sell. I'm a jewelry store, or I'm a landscaper, or whatever. Okay, but people are buying that stuff. Indeed, they are. They're buying a lot of different things that you would think they are not buying. And there may be some things that you can't actually sell right now. We've been challenged before. Somebody said they were a DJ and they make money off of public events. What should they do? Well, we gave them some ideas, none of which equated to making money right now, but equated to staying out in the public view. So don't trust us on this. Look at the Small Business Administration. They're the experts on managing small businesses, particularly in the coronavirus crisis times. And they're offering lots of information. Look what they say about marketing. It's critical to communicate openly with your customers right now about the status of your operations and what protective measures you've implemented. And then they also talk about this thing called promotions. And that's what we're going to focus on here. Promotions will help incentivize your customers who may be reluctant to patronize your business. And that's why you're here, right? Because you're worried about customers who might be reluctant or just can't patronize your business. Now is the time to really think about promotions. So what I want to tell you about is it's not the branding type of messaging that you may see, this really creative stuff where Coca-Cola and McDonald's separates their logos a little bit to sort of underscore social distancing. That's cool, but it's not going to drive business in the door right away. If you have the money, you can afford it, go for it. Branding is great. You can have these nice, soft, fuzzy messages that go out there, make people feel good. We're really talking about what you can do to either secure business that will come when the doors open or generate business right now. So before we get into some of those ideas, I wanted to introduce Corey Elliott. He's our EVP of Local Market Intelligence, and he really has his finger on the pulse of local businesses and some interesting information on a survey that we just wrapped up this week with some great insights. Corey?
Great, Gordon. Thank you. And thanks everybody for joining us today. I'm the data guy. I think data and knowledge is power, and that's what I'm here to convey. Burrell Associates runs the largest local business survey dedicated to marketing and in and around advertising and marketing. We also run a panel of local businesses that we get to talk to every month and ask them a few questions. It just helps us keep a sense of what's going on and what's in everybody's head, what's in your head right now. And we convey these findings to local media companies, but we're really concerned and look at things from your point of view. So I want to go over some stats that we found out over the course of the year and just as recently as last week. See if you agree with some of this stuff, what your peers are saying out there. Let's go back to the end of 2019. This is what we understood. This is where everybody's head was at if you're a local business and you're thinking about advertising. This is what we discovered through our survey last year. We understood that 50% of local businesses agree with Wanamaker's lament. What's that? It's that little quote down there at the bottom. Half my advertising works. The trouble is I don't know which half. Funny, right? Well, kinda, but when half of local businesses agree with that, not so funny. 48% have no strategy for setting an ad budget. We asked, they came back and said, no, we don't have a strategy. Is that you? Do you not have a strategy? 48% don't. 58% are unsure they're spending the right amount. Some think they're overspending. There's a good majority, not a majority, but there's a good percentage that say they're underspending. And some just aren't sure. But what we got most out of this survey was an understanding that a lot of local businesses, maybe you included, are your own CMOs. You're doing things yourself. You're not relying on an ad agency or a local media rep to come up with your marketing plan. You are doing it. You're going up to that giant buffet of marketing choices and trying to put a really tasty plate together. That's your job. That's a lot to ask of, or a lot to ask of any local business owner. But you know what? It wasn't that bad. Let me tell you what I mean. This is the answer to a survey. We ask this question every 3 or 4 months to our local panel of local businesses, and they tell us if it's a good time or an excellent time to be a local business, some SMB. And what you're seeing here is the red line are all the local businesses that said it is a poor time. All right, you see it's going down, right? And you see the blue line, those are the ones who said it's excellent, not just good, it's excellent. And it's been going up since December of 2018. Up to 18% of local businesses on our panel say excellent time to be a local small or medium business. Well, we asked this question again in March. What do you think those lines look like now? They look like this. So there they go, and wham. So you see that giant jump up, and 73% of the local businesses on our panel said it is a poor time. The economic situation is poor right now. So yeah, everyone's being affected. And many actually are feeling the impact, and they're feeling a pretty hard impact. 83% are seeing a negative impact, with 62% saying, I expect a large negative impact of more than 30% down. So these are local businesses like yourself who are answering this question. You can judge for yourself where you would fall in this if you were asked the question. So 83% seeing a negative impact, and that impact is to be felt throughout the summer. So we asked how long, and this is from a survey, I should have said this, that we just closed 2 days ago. So it's really fresh information. How long do you anticipate the impact on your business will last? 51%, 1 out of 2 say somewhere between 3 and 6 months. That's how long I see the impact lasting. And I should say, remember, that isn't when is the coronavirus epidemic over? It's how long do you anticipate the impact on your business will last? That's an important, kind of an important distinction. Now, now that we've established that, here's an interesting thing that's happening. We asked, okay, all of that is going on. Are you going to continue to advertise or market your business? What are you going to do? Are you going to increase? Are you going to pull back? You're going to stay the same? Here's what your peers said. 54% plan to maintain or actually increase spending. 18% specifically said they're going to increase spending. And here's an interesting side note. It's not here, but the last time we did this question, it was 1 month ago in March. And that area of the pie that says 40% less, it was actually 51% in March. So listen to me, we've got more local businesses saying, you know what, I think I'm going to spend a little bit more or at least the same now, 54%. And I think that's because a lot of local businesses are starting to see a new normal. Like, okay, we've got to adjust to this. We've got to change things. We've got to get a message out there of what we're doing differently. And that's increasing that area of more and about the same. I think that's flexing it up a little bit. So when you look at all of this, that's one thing, that's one side, that's the marketer side. Now we got to think about the people who are getting the message, right? Consumers, what's going on there? Well, let's take a look. This is from a study of about 1,200 US adults. And what they were doing, this Mindshare Pool study was trying to establish how media habits have changed pre and post pandemic, all right? Okay, so the dark blue line is the percentage of adults who say they do any one of these things. And you can see all of them here. And you see when they asked the question on April 6th, how much it's gone up. So what this is all saying is that media consumption increases dramatically during these times. Nielsen had another study that said when they looked back at when people were stuck at home for whatever reason, think hurricane, thing like that, media consumption would go up 60%. So you see it across the board, and a lot of different media is just people are in home, they don't know what to do, they're looking for things, they look for local news and information, and they consume more media. In fact, let me show you what they are consuming as far as subjects goes. This is from the same study. They asked, okay, you're increasing your media usage, what are you consuming? What kind of media are you consuming? These are the increases, 54% up in local news, 43% in health. These all make sense, right? These are things people are very concerned about right now. Plus, habits are changing. 21% of people under age 40 have started a new hobby in just the last month or so. So people are staying at home. They need news and information. They're looking for local information, and they're turning to different media channels to get that. So let's put 2 and 2 together now. Okay, we talked about some local advertisers or local businesses, I should say, who are pulling back on advertising, about 40% we saw, and we see this increase in consumption from consumers. So what happens when you smash those two together? Well, conceptually, you get something that looks like this. You get a growth in media usage, upwards of 60% according to Nielsen. At the same time, there's a reduction because you do have some people pulling back in ad buying. So that creates this big field of opportunity because you have a larger audience, more people consuming things, and you have less people advertising, so less ad clutter. We see this as a big area of opportunity right now. And I'm going to throw it to Gordon because the man loves this slide.
I love this slide. This is a slide, everybody. So if you're doing what most people do during a webinar, hell, I do it, texting your psychiatrist or clipping the nails of your Siamese cat, or whatever it is you do, stop. This is a slide that you really should look at. It does describe perfectly the opportunity where the audience has grown and the clutter is less, and there's this great balloon. And we've seen lots and lots of other data that really supports this, where your message is very, very powerful. I'll say one other thing about this. We are actually on the tail end of this Lyme, and that is things will start closing up a bit, and that is people will be getting maybe back to work, in the next 3, 4, 5 weeks, who knows? Businesses will be opening, and people will be maybe consuming a little less media than they had when they were binge watching at home. Plus, all of your competitors, the people not on this call, are going to go, okay, now it's time to advertise, and they're going to start, figuring out whether they need to advertise and what they should advertise. And so then that opportunity closes up a bit. This is the greatest time over the next couple of weeks, really, to keep raising your hand and saying, I'm here, I've done this with my business. This is, what you can do to patronize us. Here's how we're helping the community. Lots of different messages. You'll see those in a moment. But this is really a slide that describes that opportunity and tells you that, well, now things will probably be on the tail end as we recover from this over the next several months. So it's really, really an opportunity for you to get the word out. Corey?
Great, thanks. And now the next idea should be, well, okay, if I'm going to communicate, what should I be communicating? And I wanted, before I turn it over to Jim, the man full of ideas, I wanted to show you this last piece of research. This comes from GWI just this month. And they asked a couple thousand consumers, which steps do you expect retailers and e-commerce businesses to take to manage the current difficult situation? And now you can read all through them, but I think it's important because this is what people expect you to do or to address. So I think that could help, craft different marketing messages or different communications. So for instance, people are very concerned about, do you have social distancing measures placed in your store? 56%. Meanwhile, down at the bottom, that 27%, only 1 out of 4 are concerned about offering customers a longer time frame for refunds. So if you think that's important, it could be in your business. It certainly is. But generally speaking, only 1 out of 4 people seem to be concerned about that. They're much more concerned about what you're doing inside your store, how you're treating your workers, what are your hours, et cetera, et cetera. So to get a little bit more into ideas and messages and communication, I want to bring to the stage Mr. Jim Brown. He's the president of Burrell Associates and the guy who has his ear to the ground and understands how small and medium businesses can communicate in these times. Jim?
Great. Thank you very much, Corey. I appreciate it. And I'm glad in that introduction you mentioned the word communications, because that really is what we're thinking. We get a lot of questions from folks saying, hey, is it really a good time to advertise? And they're really concerned about putting a message out there. And if you change the word advertising and you substitute it for communicating, then it might feel a little bit better to you. So just kind of think about that, because it's always a good time to communicate with your customers. The Department of Health and Human Services, and specifically the CDC, put out a document right around 9/11, and it was called The Psychology of a Crisis. And in that document, there were a couple of things that I think are noteworthy. They just updated it last year, by the way. And it's the fact that people during times of crisis process information a bit differently. And I'm not talking about personal crisis. These are like, natural disasters, events like we're in right now. And one of the things that comes from this document is the fact that people will initially turn to national media. They'll kind of get an idea of what the broad story is, but they very quickly turn to local media to understand what's going on in their own backyard. Is this really impacting me? How's it impacting me? What's the truth here locally? The second thing in this document that's worth mentioning is that when people are processing that information, you got to communicate to them a little bit differently. You had to make sure your message is really simplified. It needs to be extremely clear and credible, come from a credible source. It needs to be consistent, repeated, and it needs to be timely. You don't want to wait around and decide what you're going to put out there. You need to communicate your messages pretty quickly. So be mindful of that with any of the marketing and communication you're doing with your customers. So we've got some thoughts for you around the survey that we did, where there was a question posed to businesses like you is, what can local media partners do to help you? And aside from things related to payment terms and the cost of advertising, there were really three things people asked for. They wanted some advice. They're looking for ways to promote them. And most importantly, they're looking for ideas. That's the thing that seems to come back more and more from businesses like you, is we want ideas on how we can stay relevant right now when we can't even see our customers face to face, and help us come up with good messages. How do we deliver a message that's calm, it's confident, but still sensitive to what's going on right now? So we want to do that. We want to help you with some ideas. Most of you have a business that falls into one of three categories. You're either deemed an essential business, a non-essential business, or one that's in limbo. We know what those essential businesses are, right? They're things like hospitals and grocery stores. The non-essential businesses, many of these require people to come together as a gathering. So maybe you're one of those businesses who requires people to all come together in a single location. Or you might be more of one of those who's in limbo. You might still be able to provide some services. Maybe you're doing delivery. Maybe you're more of a service-related business, and so you're still open. In fact, we know some businesses fall into both an essential category, but they're also at risk. Things like, some restaurants, if they're not able to deliver, or perhaps things like schools and child daycare and so forth. But for those two categories on the right, those non-essential at risk and those businesses that are in limbo, right now, most of your marketing is best served by promotions. So we keep talking about that, but promotions are ways for you to engage with your customers, ways to engage with them so that you can talk to them over time as things start to happen, and you can communicate your status and so forth. So that's what we want you thinking about, how you do that. So we're going to run through some ideas for promotional concepts for you, but I want you to think about reaching out to 100% of your current customers, however you can do that. And if possible, use the phone. Pick up the phone. If you're in a service-related business like a financial planner, there's just no substitute for that. But it may not be practical for everyone, all the different businesses out here, to reach people via telephone. So consider email and other methods. If you're doing email, I would suggest try avoid putting COVID-19 in the subject line. It's kind of negative. It's not really something you want to associate with your brand. You also want to reach out to non-customers. That's a mistake we see a lot of people making. They're only talking to their current customers and not reaching out beyond that. Why do you want to do that? Well, there's a lot of folks that you may be able to serve today that perhaps in the past weren't in the market for your product or service, but because of the new habits they're in, the new changes in how they're living, they may become prospects for you now, and you can't reach them if you're only talking to your current customers. You, of course, want to communicate the status of your business, but we recommend you find some sort of external marketing expert, help you with the messaging so you can get it right. You do want to be very careful with that. And when it comes to promotions, think about what is it you can do to drive sales now. But again, what else can you do to generate future sales? If your doors are closed right now, people just cannot come in and do business with you, there are still ways you can get them to buy from you or engage with you so that you can sell them later on. And we're going to run through ideas on how you can do that. First, just real quickly on what customers want you to say. Corey gave you an idea of what's on their mind. These are the 8 top preferred content areas they're looking for in content. And of course, adjustment in your services, your hours, what you're doing to keep your store and your employees clean, all very important. But you'll also notice, in addition to focusing on safety, you see offers and deals. They're looking for offering deals, promotions, discounts. Folks are looking for that right now. They're looking for bargains. So you want to make sure you're meeting that if at all possible. All right, so what I'll do in sort of rapid succession, I'm going to run down some different businesses. Some of these are national, but it's the concept that I want you focused on. So as you see these, think, okay, how could this concept apply to my business? All right, how about airline travel? You think they're kind of dead in the water right now, right? Well, nobody's traveling. Well, look what American Airlines is doing. They've got a place where you can click to say, where will you go first? You know, when things do clear up, people want to travel. What are the ideas? Get inspired. So again, the concept here is, can you suggest to people to interact with you? You know, what is it they want to be doing in the future that you might be able to serve that future need? I think it's a great idea that the travel industry is doing right now. They will be marketing to all the people who said, I want to go to Barbados or I want to go to Alaska. When things open up, they're going to be getting offers and deals to go to those places. Here's another idea. You might think, well, nobody's moving right now. Look what U-Haul has done. You know, here's the concept. Take advantage of new business opportunities that may have opened up. They realize, wow, look at all these college students who are not able to stay in the dorms or might need to move out of the apartments earlier than they normally would. So what have they done? They've opened up storage units, and they're making it exceptionally easy, even for an 18-year-old to rent a truck, to rent a storage unit, to pack up their stuff. They're serving a new need that didn't exist before. Instead of just closing their doors and saying, oh, no opportunity to do business. Yes, there is. They're finding a new way to do that. So maybe you can take a page from that book and see what might be similar in your own business. Here's another idea. We're seeing this a lot with medicine in particular, but the concept is interacting with your customers online. We see telemedicine is now available, and we see not only dermatologists, but other specialties, you know, setting up online appointments with people. You could be doing that too, potentially. Is there a way now that you can interact with folks via Zoom or something else? The nice thing is now so many people are using Zoom, even personally, that, you know, you don't have to worry, oh, my customers aren't going to know how to use this technology. Yeah, a lot of them already do. They do know how to use it. So consider using online as a way to interact with your customers. I also want to give you some idea on messaging. So here's an idea. We saw a Harley-Davidson dealership in California take advantage of the fact that, okay, we are sort of this original social distancing, getting on a Harley, getting away from it all. The point here is, can you tie your brand and your messaging to the sentiment that everybody has right now, the feeling that we have? Maybe people cooped up in their house and they'd love to get away. Here's an example of, you know, tying that brand to how people might be feeling. Get out, you know, of course, they've got a message here about help stop the spread. Social distancing puts a buffer between us and those with COVID-19. So they're just tying in with kind of a helpful message, but at the same time, their brand ties in very nicely to that as well. Here's another concept, pre-sell. You think nobody's taking vacations or traveling? Perhaps. Can you pre-sell something? We've been seeing deals and offers like this, huge discounts to get people to spend today. And you might think they don't have the money. Yes, people do. Money's just being displaced. You know, the dollars that people would normally spend in gasoline, the dollars you might spend on a trip that you haven't been able to take yet are still available. So you see people taking advantage of this by putting out special deals and promotions that people can buy now and then use later. So consider that as a potential concept as well. Gordon, I'm going to let you speak to the real estate one because I think you've got some suggestions about it. But there's the idea of sort of virtual transactions. I've seen an ad. In fact, this particular ad came into my email, and I have registered to get updates on historic homes that are for sale on my market, just because I'm interested in that kind of thing. But the realtor took the time to send me a message to say, here's what we're doing. We can still close homes. We've got a virtual real estate transaction program going. So, you know, is that something you can do? And if you are, make sure you're communicating it. Gordon, you had a comment on that?
Yeah, there's a great point and a great theme here. But before we get that, type in your questions. I know we're going to have some here from you. If you've got a business and you want to challenge us and say, hey, what can I do? I run this type of business. Type them in now. But there is a bit of a theme here, and that is, in the case of American Airlines, in the case of U-Haul, in the case of the dermatologist, and in the case of Harley, and in this case here with this real estate agent, they're getting into the mind of the consumer, the client, and what they're thinking at the moment. So you can't travel right now, but American Airlines knows that people are probably thinking about it. So, they're getting into the mind of people who are saying, well, okay, all of our kids are at home. I wonder, if we should be moving them right now. These are all just great, great examples. With this one here, real estate, they've gotten into the mindset of their customer, and their customer's thinking, "Oh, I was thinking about putting the house in the market in the spring. Is now a good time? Should I lower the price? Should I not on the market? I'm on the market right now. Should I take it off the market?" And there's some really great examples. Almost all of these things that you see on the screen here aren't new. These are things that the client is already doing. They do escrow deposit and inspection. They do a electronic signature already through DocuSign. So it's just putting things together in a package, most of them not new, to say, hey, we can do this virtually. So being creative and tapping into your customer's mindset is just really important. And if you have questions, please do plug them in now. We will help you out with some ideas for your business. Jim?
Great. So another one of the concepts or ideas is maybe offering a little bit different service. You might be thinking, well, nobody needs dry cleaning, right? They're not getting their suits cleaned because they're not going into the office. Well, here's an example of a dry cleaner's offering a new service. It's a wash, dry, fold service. What they realize is people are at home and the laundry's probably building up with all the kids being home, and parents are trying to work while they're at home. They're offering a new service, a solution, and they're giving a nice 25% discount off. They're letting people know they can schedule a free pickup or delivery. So again, it's a way of sort of shifting the business around and offering something a little bit different to your customers. Is there something you could do like that as well? Here's another idea, and it's really about sort of interacting with your customers a bit differently as well. Getting some attention here. We see food trucks. You think it might be a tough time to be in that business, but in addition to these reasons why you want to use a food truck, and they talk about why they're clean and safe and limited exposure to staff members, and you don't need to dine in, and the utensils are disposable. They're also changing the way they do business by coming into neighborhoods, right? So we've seen a lot of municipalities freeing up regulations to allow food trucks to come in, and they're letting people order their food in advance, not just one burrito or one burger, but actually order a whole family meal and come up to the food truck. We're seeing a lot of that. So the idea, again, the concept is now maybe you might be able to interact with customers a bit more online, let them order from you directly. It could be another way to think about it. Here's one other concept, and be careful about your messaging. Toilet paper with a meal. I'm not sure if that's what you want to do. Here's an example of an ad, and I'm not saying this is bad. It's just a different concept. I don't know that I'd want to tie that to my brand, but here's what I would say is good about it. Think about how you might be able to offer a complementary product with what you normally sell. I mean, heck, it could be masks for all I know, but what else is it that you could provide that maybe you don't normally sell, but could be of value to your customers? Look for ways to do that. I'm going to really quickly go through some of these ideas and concepts. We've heard from landscapers, gosh, people are at home. They're doing their own landscaping, maybe. But that partnership idea, what if you could partner with a garden center and you install things for people? Not everybody's home. There's a lot of essential folks, essential services who are working kind of around the clock who could probably use your help. Financial services, I mentioned this before. I work with two financial planners, one who has picked up the phone and called me several times, alerted me, let me know what's going on, had some good conversations with them. The other has just sent me emails, and the emails are somewhat generic. When you can reach people over the phone and be more personalized, it really goes a long way. I've got a plasterer here. The whole idea is that there's lots of home service and repair. People are sitting around their houses looking at what needs to be done, what they'd like to get done. They're dreaming about remodeling their kitchen or putting in new flooring or whatever it might be. While that sentiment's there, take advantage of that, put messages out there, create contests, promotions to get people to engage with you. The jewelry concept, you think, again, is anybody buying jewelry? My wife and I are getting ready to celebrate our 30th wedding anniversary. We were planning a trip to Italy, of all places. We're not going to Italy now. We still have that money, and I have a need. I've got to do something for my wife for our 30th wedding anniversary. I'm a great candidate for jewelry, so consider that. We know with proms being canceled, and other events being canceled, jewelry might be a great way for people to have, sort of memorialize the events that are happening in their lives. I'm going to let Gordon speak to this dog kennel one, because I just think it's a great example of thinking a little bit differently about your business. Gordon, you heard a really interesting ad the other day.
Heard one. I saw one. It was great. And I love to do it because it requires like a dog voice, which I do a really good one. But it was just along the theme. And if you have questions, type them in. I know we get a bunch of them in, so we're going to take them in just about 2 minutes. This is a dog kennel. Dog kennel, dead in the water, right? Nobody's taking their dogs to a kennel because everybody's staying at home. Nobody's going on vacation. Well, this kennel's like, okay, I bet you the dog needs a vacation. So they created this video of this dog. It's an old dog. It's a close-up of the face, got a little white whiskers, and the mouth is moving a little bit. And the voiceover in the dog's voice goes, "These people every day at home, on the computer, on the phone, walking me 5 times a day. I need a vacation." There you go. Take them to the kennel to be with other dogs and get away from the family. What a great creative idea. So many of these go back to what blacksmiths did 100 years ago when they saw their customers not coming in and shoeing horses. They were riding by on cars. They said, we've got to pivot. We've got to do what they're doing right now. We're not in the horse shoeing business. We're in the serving the transportation needs business. So they put up gas pumps and they figured out how to fix engines. So those are great examples. Document shredding is a great one where, you'd think, okay, nobody's in their office. So do you need document shredding services? Sure. There are probably people at home. Take a picture of somebody with papers piled up all over their, their sofa and their bed at home saying, we'll come to you and help you with their home document shredding needs. The slice of pizza one is another great example where a pizza shop that had 3 locations in Manhattan. When everything shut down in Manhattan, they still had delivery service, but nobody was coming in. So they said, okay, here's what we'll do. We'll sell twice as many pizzas in one day by asking everybody who calls in if they'd like to buy a pizza and donate it to the hospital. And we'll send it over there to the volunteers with a little thank you note from them. They're selling 300 or 400 pizzas a day. Now, lots of businesses in New York, florists and other restaurants are following suit. That level of creativity is just terrific and something that you want to think about. So let's turn to the questions. Corey, what do we got?
Okay, we've got a few. Let's start here. Looking for ideas for a nonprofit who is starting to do virtual events, but being new to online, trying to find a free tool to track registrants and donations.
That's a good one. I'm gonna turn, because it's a hard one. I'm gonna turn it over to Jim. Jim's the idea guy, and he's also into nonprofits and understands the issues with events being postponed. Jim?
A couple of thoughts for you. One would be make sure you've deputized your board, get them involved. They might be able to help communicate with other business interest in the market to pull more interest in. And while you may not have an event, you certainly can do a virtual event. People right now want to help. They really do. So I guess there's 2 sides of your communication. One is you probably are looking to get support. You're looking to get donations. The other is you're trying to tell people about whatever your nonprofit is, what that service is you provide. So look for some partners out there right now who could help you communicate that message and solicit some support. I'll bet the folks at Salem could probably help you with tracking stuff because, in addition to being a media company, they help with the communication needs of businesses just like you. So I would suggest they could help you with whatever sort of registration process you're looking to use. It's a good idea. You want to do that, and you want to start courting all those people who are contributing to you and using your services as well. What's another one, Corey?
Okay, here's what we're getting a lot of good ideas too, which is interesting with this group. Here's just a general question. Can we advertise on social media without creating a personal account? What do you think, Gordon?
Yeah, actually, you can. And Jamie, I'm gonna call on you because I think Salem might be helping folks with their social media stuff. But you can Your advertising is limited if you don't have an account or a Facebook page. One of the more powerful parts of Facebook is being able to put a post up there if you have a business page. So you create a business page and you post on it, and then you can boost that post and it puts it in everybody's stream. If you don't have a Facebook page, you have to create an account, but then you're limited to the left or the right bar, I'm sorry, where the ads are, and that's difficult. Jamie, is Salem helping folks with their social media?
We are. We can help from getting the page set up and established to sponsoring posts, boosting posts, and conducting full-scale, advertising campaigns to help our clients around their target audience wherever they are.
Yeah, it's just so great to work with media companies. We're just finding that, they're local businesses too. They need your help, and they're marketing experts. So why not talk to them? So we're advocating two businesses with common needs get together. Corey, another question.
I have a bookkeeping/business advisement business. What would be the best way to increase my clientele? I offer many options for helping folks.
I would right now I'd say take advantage of the lack of clutter in the advertising space and the greater use of media. The challenges would be where people are looking right now. So not knowing if you're general accounting or whether you're on a specific vertical of accounting, larger business, smaller businesses, or service businesses, or whatever. I think a lot of people are thinking about how to manage their businesses from home, and they're using the cloud, or they're using some type of a Quicken or QuickBooks, or and they're trying to figure that out. And believe it or not, lots of businesses haven't really figured that out. They still have to go into work and sit down. So offering advice and trying to get in that mainstream of what people are thinking right now. Need help managing your books from home. And tap into people's questions about maybe the PPP program. Who qualifies and things like that. Loads of people small businesses have questions about that right now. You don't have to provide that level of expertise yourself, because you may not actually have some of that expertise. You probably have some, but not all. But maybe bring in another expert and either have some content on your website that you promote, or maybe put together a webinar. You small business thinking about, your bookkeeping, accounting right now, and PPP loans. Loads of people would sign up for that. So tapping into the mindset of consumers, your customers at this moment, is important, and then getting a creative message out to them. I hope that was helpful. Corey, let's try two more.
Okay. I'll take the first part of this one, then probably, I'm guessing, Jim, but your limbo chart showed construction in limbo. My understanding is it's essential. So what do you suggest for remodeling business? You're right about the limbo chart. The thing is that chart changes from state to state. So there'll be there'll be some business categories that shift from limbo to essential to non-essential. So you could be somewhere where your construction business is considered essential. So let's get to the meat of your question, which is, so what do you suggest for remodeling business? And I only call on Jim because he just went through this, I believe.
Yeah, matter of fact, we had quite a bit of work done recently. Both had an electrician and a plaster company and a plumber come in just within the last 6 weeks. And one of the things they did was make sure they communicated to us what they were doing to keep us safe and their employees safe. So the protective gear that they wore, they had footies that they came in, not only to keep the place clean, but also just make sure it was somewhat disinfected. They roped off the area that they were working in, but they communicated all that. So they sort of put us at ease, because we were a little worried about having people come into our house. But when they explained what they were doing to keep us safe, it relieved some of our fears, and we were comfortable having them come in. So I think that needs to be part of your message. You also might be able to communicate that if you've got a little more flexibility and schedules because people are home, and therefore you can maybe offer even some discount to get people to act now. I would encourage you to put that message out there as well.
Here's one. I just thought of one just right off the top of my head, and I'm thinking of an image, and I'm thinking about somebody who's doing some remodeling, and he's got on a hoodie, and he's got on a mask, and he's got the things on his shoes. Thinking about remodeling, we've got you covered because we're covered. There, that was a free idea. How about that? We're seeing a lot of messages very, very similar to that. Corey, we've got time for one more, and then we're gonna have to wrap it up. If you have a question we didn't get to, we will get the answers to you. Jamie will we'll take care
We'll
of that.
follow up.
Corey,
Yep.
one more.
Okay, I'm a local photographer and I want to offer reduced price or free sessions to frontline workers. What is the best way to get the message out there and allow people to contribute so the workers can get the sessions for free?
Well, my suggestion is use some mass media to do that, because it's a pretty broad reaching message that could go to a lot of people. Make it real easy for people to sign up for that service, make appointments with you. So be clear on your website address, where they go, how they sign up. And if you do anything on social media, make sure it's easy to share so people start talking about it. I think that's a great idea, a nice service to the community. Lastly, think if there's anybody who might help underwrite that service along with you, who might want to partner. It could be any other type of business, insurance agent, whoever else. Look for that as well.
Yeah, that's great. People are definitely willing to give kudos and thanks and recognize, the workers out there, the people who are out there on the street, and people driving trucks and everything else. Jim said something really important. Make sure it's shareable. You could even turn it into a contest. Tell us your best story about, whatever, and you could turn it into something that generates, if you're going to give away something for free portrait photography. Porch photography of your family. We'll stand 20 feet away and take a family portrait of your people staying in place. Something like that would be kind of fun. Make sure you collect names from people, because they are potential customers of yours. So the whole idea behind doing a contest or having something where you're giving something away is collecting that contact information. So we're running out of time. I wanted to turn it back over to you, Jamie, but I also wanted to thank Salem for the opportunity to do this and to bring this to local businesses. We love sharing some of these ideas. We love helping small businesses. You guys are the backbone of your communities. You create jobs. You create an awful lot of paychecks and wealth in the community. Thank you for that, and I hope this has been useful to keep you afloat and keep you going. Jamie?
Thanks, Burrell team, for bringing your A game as always, and shining the light on what we all can do in times like this to keep communicating and moving forward. On behalf of Salem Media Group and Salem Surround, I'd like to thank you for attending our crisis marketing webinar. To learn more about what you heard today on promotional ideas or to better assess your marketing message and strategy, please visit salemsurround.com or contact your local media strategist. Thanks again and have a great day. Stay well and safe.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.